Spoštovane kolegice in kolegi, drage študentke, študenti, dragi prijatelji, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, and of course, draga dekanja here in the first row, and all the professors in the first, second, and third row. Be welcome. I am delighted to warmly greet you today, again, which is a very nice occasion, on behalf of the Faculty of Design. The occasion is New European Bauhaus Days 2024. What is the NEB, so New European Bauhaus Days? Is an initiative, creative and interdisciplinary one. It's a space of encounter to design future ways of living. It is a meeting point between art, culture, social inclusion, science and technology. The keywords of this year's New European Bauhaus Days are, they are very nice words and very nice concepts: sustainability, coexistence with nature, universal design, flexible design, mobility, future living spaces, interior design, urban equipment, alternative forms of life, future lifestyles, nature-friendly, adaptability, innovative housing, future urban living, sustainable living. So we are really excited to have you all here with us, to hear your stories and to write together a new and a very dynamic one. We shall start with, of course, as usual, with opening and honorable speeches. Under umbrella of the main title, how can we in the field of creative industries use humanity-centered design to make a better world? Drage kolegice in kolegi, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce our opening speech today, otvoritveni nagovor današnjega dne, delivered by President of World Design Organization, Mr. Thomas Garvey, PhD. Since Mr. Thomas is ill, this is what we knew today in the morning. Allow me please to read his words by myself. So first I would like to need a big round of applause to do so. And of course this applause goes to the President of World Design Organization, who wrote like this: "Dear students, faculty, colleagues and special guests, congratulations to everyone on this opening of the Urban October New European Bauhaus Days. The program of events is truly exciting and timely and promises to inspire ideas and discussions that will continue to grow along and develop over time. Firstly, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to my dear colleague and friend, Professor Nada Maticic, for the generous invitation. You continue to inspire us with your vision and leadership. I would also like to thank the head of the Department for International Affairs, Science and Research, Jan Kermel, for coordinating my participation. I have appreciated your patience. To everyone, the program of events that is planned is truly exciting, offering a valuable opportunity for everyone to engage with innovative ideas that merge sustainability, design and inclusivity. I have no doubt that the discussions and insights shared during the event will spark creativity and inspire meaningful collaborations that will continue to involve and influence the many fields of design being explored. Your commitment to fostering an environment where creative minds can come together to explore the future of sustainable living and community development is both admirable and vital. I can assure you that we at World Design Organization are interested in the results of the work being done by all the students and educators in the Faculty of Design in collaboration with so many talented guest professionals, and we will continue to look forward to a future opportunity to collaborate. thank you again for the invitation. Wishing you all the best for an inspiring and successful event. Thomas Garvey, President, World Design Organization. Thank you so very much, Thomas. So I think that now is really the time to announce, to say that it is an honor for me to warmly greet our next distinguished speaker today, who will also deliver greeting speech. Acting Dean of Faculty of Design, Profesor Nada Rožmanec-Matičič, be welcome, bodite dobrodošli kot vselej in velik aplavz za našo dekanjo, prosim.
Dr. Blažka Miller, thank you very much for these very kind words. Dear ladies and gentlemen, students, my dear colleagues from Slovenia and abroad, good morning. On this wonderful urban design event in the middle of New European Bauhaus days, which we organized for the last days of Urban October. As we know, the New European Bauhaus initiative inspires us with a vision of shaping the future that goes beyond mere aesthetics and functionality. It brings together the values of sustainability, inclusion and aesthetics, creating places where people live in harmony and with environment, together with environment and with each with other. The values promoted by New European Bauhaus remind us that we must strive for socially responsible solutions that enable sustainable development, accessibility for all, I mean design for all, and preserve and enhance cultural heritage. Today, design talks, too, will be happened, focuses on the question, on the heart of this initiative. How can we in creative industries use human-centered design to create a better world? A better green world, a better clean world, where there will be enough food and enough water for everybody, where there will be no more wars. Through the inspiring talks and roundtables taking place today, we will explore how we can shape a future that is not only sustainable, but also beautiful, and especially fair for everyone. Our goal is to create an environment where the creative industries act as a catalyst for change, where human need, compassion, and sustainable guide our creative processes. I am convinced that today's exchange of ideas between our international experts, architects, professionals, engineers, and designers will offer new perspectives and concrete solutions to the global challenges we face. It is a great pleasure to host you today in this greatest center, ROC, the greatest hub in Europe. Thank you for your participation and collaboration. I wish you a very successful and a very creative day. And of course, thank you very much to my dear friend, Professor Dr. Thomas Garvey, the President of World Design Organization, who couldn't come, but every word counts. So thank you very much. I hope we see us at last in September next year on General Assembly in London. Thank you.
Hvala lepa, Dekanja. Thank you so very much. Yes, that was a really beautiful thought. Every word counts. And now we shall hear some more words delivered by Professor Hina Ali, PhD, London College of Communication, who is with us, I guess, online. I can see her. Hello. Be welcome. And of course, we are expecting your words. A big round of applause to say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Nada and the amazing team for putting such an amazing event together. I'm going to try to keep to time. So I'm going to kick off in a bit, but I just want to say that I'm really sorry not to be there in person this year, and I'm hoping to be there next year, all goes well. So I'm going to try to share my screen. And I just hope it works. As with technology, you never know. Okay, it's working. Okay, so just before we kick off, I just want to give you a little bit of background for this specific topic that we are very passionate about now these days. I've been working in the field of human-centered design for the last 10 years now, using participatorial design practices. We work with governments, we work with local councils, I work globally in the Global South as well. But over the period of all the projects that I've done and all the discoveries, I've just kind of formed my talk around that a little bit. That what is human-centered design and how human-centered design connects to other entities around the world. So how can we further expand it to maximum impact? So today I'm going to be talking about what is a more than human-centered design, what
Professor
are the
Ali,
principles around this specific
excuse
subject.
Me? May I just interrupt you a little bit? So our technician, Doman, said that you are sharing the wrong PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
I
You can't
think
see my
so.
screen?
Doman will say if it is okay or not, because we are just seeing something black.
Okay.
They're in above your picture. Yes, you are sharing the browser instead of the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, so I probably need to upload my presentation.
We will wait,
then.
no panic. So we can wait a little bit that you organize your computer.
Okay, let me just see
Yes.
how this works.
I'm so sorry I interrupted you, but
No worry at all.
I guess that you prepared very interesting PowerPoint, so we would like to see it. Like you said, you never know with technology.
With technology, you can never tell.
So,
No,
yeah.
only one.
Now it is okay. Thank you so very much. And I would like to ask you to start from the beginning, because we're curious to follow every your word. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is better even. I can see myself as well and everyone else. Okay, so coming back to the beginning again. So more than human-centered design, expanding the focus of design beyond human needs only. I just want to give a little bit of context again, that the whole point of talking about this topic in this amazing gathering is for us all to think about what we humans, what can we bring, what do we bring to this space, this planet that we live on, and then, and how do we interact with the entities around us. More than human-centered design practice. So today I'm going to be talking about what is more than human-centered design, the key principles of more than human-centered design, benefits and challenges, of course, as designers and working with governments, working with communities. We know nothing comes without a challenge. Nothing is easy. And then the main takeaway as you look at, or as you hear what I'm going to be sharing with you, is that we do not exist alone on this planet. And for human-centered design to work, how we engage design with the ecosystems around us, the ecosystems that surround us in our everyday, in our professional fields, in our creative fields. Unless we do that, we cannot have maximum impact. We think about why I've been working in this field for the last 10 years. And like I said before, I work with governments, we work with communities, I work around the globe. However, we always have the discussion why the impact that we create is not big enough to come over the negatives that Nader was just talking about. There will be no more wars. Why aren't designers part of policy making? Why aren't we engaging more with the things that we can contribute to? And the whole point that I want to make is that we need to understand the ecosystems and how we contribute to these ecosystems. So first of all, let's start with what is more than human-centered design. It's a design approach that considers non-human entities, plants, animals, ecosystems, technologies as stakeholders in the design. The whole point is to shift from anthropocentric, human-centered only design to ecological and multi-species perspectives. Now, what is the importance? Why should we even do this? Is that in today's world, we're facing environmental crisis. Designing with more than humans in mind promotes sustainability and coexistence. So it's not about not using human-centered design, but it's about expanding the conversation, expanding the stakeholders, and thinking about other connections within the ecosystems. I'm going to share a service design project today with you today, just to exemplify what I'm saying. And within this project, please do focus on how this project is by a Turkish student, İpek Pellet. She designed this project for her final major project. It's available at University of the Arts website if you need to know more about it. And this project was conducted in Turkey, where she designed a service that involved spaces as creative tools to help young children grow up mentally stronger. So for more than human-centered design, as it's a growing field, it accounts for non-human actors in design processes. And also the systems of mutual interdependence between organisms impacts human-centered design, and this cannot be ignored anymore if we want holistic change, because that's what we're always aiming for. When you look at this project, please do try to observe and see or think about your own practices, whether you're a designer, whether you're a policymaker, whether you're a leader, that how can we engage more with our ecosystems to maximize the impact that we're trying to do. So the key principles of more than human-centered design are: we decenter the human. Human is important, but not the most important thing. And as we are part of an interconnected ecosystem, we are not the sole focus of design. Also recognizing non-human agency. Plants, animals, and technologies have unique roles and influences, and it's all interconnected. Ethical considerations, respect for non-human life forms, natural ecosystems, and design participants. Sustainability and resilience, designing for the long-term survival and well-being of all living and non-living entities. So the project that I'm going to be talking about is about how the environment we use to support mental health services and create a huge impact in Turkey for young children. The question that this service asked was, how might we facilitate children's engagement with nature and foster behavioral shifts toward nature in urban environments to help reduce the risk of developing mental health issues in adulthood? So this was thinking not only about short-term impact, but also long-term impact in the future. The service actually used the spaces around young people in Turkey to understand what is the context of the project, how can these urban spaces contribute not only negatively, because they already do, children all the time on the phones, on technologies, do not go out and play. So how can we use these spaces to inspire ideas and services that can help children engage more with nature and become closer to nature without going out of their way? How can we make it easier for parents, for schools, for teachers to do this? The service ended up working with schools, working with local nurseries, and also with the government and the policymakers, and designed actual objects that the children actually used to understand the nature around them. And this is kind of thinking about anxiety at a young age, but also thinking about how can we develop citizens who are more nature-centric, who are more climate-centered, who also think about the ecologies and the ethics of environment around us. So this is kind of creating micro impact and also at the same time macro impact. The service ended up collaborating with various stakeholders, which include for schools in Turkey, it included product designers creating these blocks. It included environmentalists providing natural material, recyclable material, and also a material that can be grown again, that can be regenerated. And the service facilitator was by the government. It was the Department of Education in Turkey that provided the service, helped develop this service, and now they're using the service, prototyping and testing this service with schools in Turkey. So the whole point of kind of introducing this subject is to open up the conversation, is for us all to think together within our own professions. We don't necessarily have to be a designer. We don't have to be a service designer, a design innovator only, even though I know right now from my past experience, this hall is full of creative talent. So it would be great for you all to think about this as well, but also for leadership, thought leaders, for policymakers, for community connectors, that how can we think about this interconnectedness and how can we leverage this to develop design that's more holistic? Because there are benefits and challenges in everything. With this approach, we have environmental sustainability. As designs can benefit all the ecosystem to mitigate climate change, we have ethical responsibility because we talk about inclusion, we talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion. And this approach kind of takes us into that because thinking about everyone and innovation, new ideas, spaces, inspiration. When we were younger in undergrad, our teachers would take us out in the street for sketching, for drawing. Why? Because it's an inspiration for innovation. But there are huge challenges as well. As always, these complex problems bring complexity with them. It is difficult to address the needs of multiple species and ecosystems simultaneously. How do we quantify? How do we measure impact? And then again, a cultural shift that requires a fundamental change in how we view design and its stakeholders. I'm going to leave you with this thought and these questions. If you have any questions about this, about the kind of work I do, please do get in touch with me on email or via another, and I'm happy to answer any questions through the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you so very much for your words. I would like to stress your very important thought, your principle of everything. We have to understand the ecosystems, and nothing is easy, but together we can manage all the challenges. So thank you again. Hvala lipa še enkrat. And now, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce another presentation, which will be delivered by Rosina Spinoy, Belgium Design Council, Brussels. So we are going to, and here is Rosina. Hello. It's a pity that you're not with us here in Ljubljana, but it is nice seeing you from online from Brussels. Hello.
Hi there, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today, and indeed apologies for not being able to be with you in person, and hope that the days so far have been going very well, and of course it's a pleasure to be here today and to present to you all. So on that note, I will start with this presentation on human and life-centered design. Very similar indeed, the approach that, of course, Dr. Henna was talking about, that indeed we need to think beyond the human-centered design. So indeed, it's about the power, I believe, that designers have in really crafting a better world. And as we'd, of course, heard earlier on, in our increasingly sort of complex world, of course, I do believe that the creative industries and designers hold the key to addressing the global challenges by fostering these innovative solutions that integrate sustainability, that also have inclusion and adaptability. Challenges like, of course, these, the poly crisis that we have, as mentioned, we've got climate change, rapid urbanization, global health, migration crisis. We know all of these crises. And of course, we need to have more systemic thinking and visionary approaches. Designers and creatives, for instance, really can play a crucial role in combating climate change through sustainable practices in fashion, product design, such as waste reduction and the circular economies. And of course, we know with rapid urbanization, designers can also really contribute to co-creating livable, equitable cities and rethinking our urban spaces. Now, this is something I personally have got involved in. Having studied interior design, I've moved into designing the external spaces and how do we design inclusive, sustainable communities, and really using the human and life-centered design. Of course, now we know also that, of course, designers can be catalysts for social change. And really also when we think about the sort of urban problems that we have, if we think just now that 56% of the world's population currently live in urban areas, and it's of course expected to rise to 70% by 2050. So we have to think about some of these major problems that we have, such as rethinking affordable housing for all. It requires a shift towards thinking sustainable and really local empowerment, and having, areas and housing that thinks about multi-generational living, both in the global north and the global south. And also, with myself, as well as working at the sort of micro level, it's also very much working and collaborating with partners in other countries, including South Asia, as well as other European projects. Now, I'm going to show you this picture when we're thinking about affordable housing. I want to mention an incredible woman that I had the pleasure to meet. It was Yasmin Lari, a pioneering and award-winning architect from Pakistan, South Asia. Really, she's exemplifying this creative approach with tackling social problems, like with her 1 Million Homes project, which was really instigated with the challenges that South Asia and Pakistan's having with flooding and of course the loss of homes. And Lari really empowers local community to build their own homes and using sustainable low-cost materials like bamboo and mud, reducing this dependency on external resources and development funds, actually. So also women in these homes, it's really fostering this sort of community pride and gender equality. It's encouraging the women to also design the external facade of their houses. Her process emphasizes the simplicity, the affordability, while ensuring this kind of resilience to climate change. Of course, in the broader context, adopting multi-generational co-housing can really address housing affordability and offer solutions to rising, childcare, elderly care needs, and creating this sort of intergenerational living, which we've seen projects of these arising, certainly in the UK and in England. By sharing living spaces and responsibilities, these homes ease the financial burden of childcare and reduce the social isolation, and of course provide that mutual support across generation, fostering a stronger connected community. And another project that I'll jump to is with partners that I've been working with on a project around empowering women, public space and climate change. And it's again, it's a foundation based in the in South Asia again, and again in Pakistan. It's fashion designers, of course, they must also really sort of prioritize, of course, sustainability and be conscious of the industry's impact on climate. This really means rethinking the materials and production process, of course, and waste reduction. So in the Global South here with Caravan Crafts Foundation, they're really encouraging this sort of indigenous crafts and arts and offering really valuable lessons in sustainable, time-honoured practices. And it's also really interesting to see the collaborations, again, seeing creatives jumping out of their comfort zone and collaborating, global North and South partnerships. So really, Caravan Crafts and the women that they're working with in the rural areas, taking their indigenous arts and crafts and taking it to the West with designers based in the West, and actually having incredible platforms of London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and also these kind of collaborations, really they showcase the rural women's work in these prestigious fashion shows in London and Paris, highlighting really the power in combining traditional craftsmanship in these global partnerships, but also it's uplifting these rural artisans and promoting the sustainable fashion and really these local values and handcrafted goods that are really demonstrating how the industry can foster both environmental responsibility and also social empowerment. Now, moving on to other co-designed and co-created projects, bringing creatives together along with community. Some of my projects have included in the urban field, working with the municipality here locally actually, and really having community-led projects with having the input from local government and redesigning our environment, creating pedestrianised streets, and again, collaborating with the neighbourhood, with the community, mapping with the neighbourhood and doing sensory walks, and actually including children in the community, including children in the schools, including the elderly homes. What is it they would like to have an inclusive, sustainable pedestrian zone, as well as also we were encouraging the feminist lens and actually changing the names of the streets to have more women, so feminizing street name strategy. Again, another project that was indeed mapping with the neighbourhood community was going deeper and delving deeper into the sensory walk in an area, looking at how much greenery is in the area, looking at how does the area smell, feel, how does it differ from an area, you know, that an adjoining municipality that may be slightly more affluent. And really it's emphasizing this co-design aspect that of course is also very much the values of the NEB, seeing as it's also the NEB days. And of course, with being one of the partners of the new European Bauhaus as well, we really emphasized, for example, this need of co-design. In fact, one of the first projects I shared with the NEB was this one on inclusive education with analog to digital, and it was also bringing back the inherent aspect of play and creativity into school, but the inclusive aspect being also doing this together with a school for children with disabilities, and also bringing in, of course, the digital aspects and allowing these children to be exposed to 3D printing, AI, also virtual reality, something that they had never done. They may be playing on their games and in Minecraft, but things like 3D printing they had never done. So this again shows the power of co-design and the power of creativity in bringing designers together. Of course, this also isn't just at grassroots level. We've also been involved with, for example, hackathons and bringing different diverse creatives, students, academics together. For example, the UN World Food Programme did an event here in 2018 in Brussels, where again it was looking at creative ideas for disaster relief and thinking how could we bring food closer to the children that need it during disasters. So indeed there also creative thinking and co-design is needed, and we need to be having the cross-sector collaboration. We really need to identify who are the stakeholders, how can we facilitate that dialogue and bring that all-important trust into the communities. It requires really co-design to be sort of integrated within this design process and really look at implementing the solutions and bringing a diverse range of people being into this co-design project and giving a voice to those that are also vulnerable, of course. And also another aspect to think of is about envisioning future scenarios, looking at foresight. How do we really identify these trends? How can designers analyze what's happening and what's emerging? And also with scenario planning and role play and developing strategies around that. And again, this is something that government is also doing more and more when it comes to policy design, bringing in community. And this is where the value of designers and creatives is really needed. So of course, looking ahead with futures thinking, we need to be enabling designers and creative industries to anticipate these trends, address these emerging global issues. So as designers, you really can be catalysts for societal change. And as I mentioned with myself and my career path, from studying interior design and working in that to then working in really trying to be a part of the change and co-design projects with many others. So thank you for listening. I hope you heard some of that. I hope I didn't
Thank you so very much. Hvala lepa. And thank you for emphasizing the idea of the power of designers and design. This is a very important thing, our power that we have. And now, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we shall continue. I'm happy and glad having with us Professor Rajendra Kumar, Laveli School of Architecture and Design, India. Professor, are you with us already? Hello, dober dan, lepo pozdravljeni, be welcome with us.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me here. Actually, I have another presentation in the next session, so that's why I am not doing any kind of a PowerPoint presentation in this session. I hope everybody will stay back in for the next session also. There, I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation on the given topic. I had an honor of meeting Professor Nata, Mr. Jan, and everybody a few weeks back in Slovenia. But in this, since it's an opening session, I would like to set up some point about my observation about the presentation, what our previous speaker has said before. Well, I mean, it's a globally connected city. I mean, now I was like, just last week I was in Europe, and today I'm in Delhi, and then next week again I'm gonna be in Saudi Arabia. So it's a time of a global connect, and I believe that this COVID has really taught us for connecting us globally with all the cities. So first of all, I would really like to congratulate Professor Nada and her team for hosting such kind of initiative of connecting global expert and sharing their own example. I come from India, which is the largest population on the earth. I mean, we share almost 1/6 of the whole population on the earth. So the scenario of what happened in other part of the world, like a less populated countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, for that matter, even Slovenia also. So there are a lot of learning which we can do it from our peers and the global cities. I have been to Ljubljana a couple of times, and Ljubljana is one of the most beautiful city I have ever seen during my global travel in the last more than 20 years. So that's the one point I would really put emphasis is about, connecting with the global cities and global experts. And here the technology is really helping us. And then another point which I would really like to come about, this migration. I believe that there are many countries in the world. America election is around the corner, and America talks about the illegal immigrant coming from Mexico. Europe is always a very close border for migrants coming from other part of the world. But trust me one thing, these migrants, when they come from a different part of the world, I believe that, they come with the culture, they come with the, diversity. Take the example of countries like Canada, city like Dubai, or for that matter, any Middle East cities, where the whole reason was developed because of the contribution by migration. So I believe that, when we talk about a design per se, what this global design village, I mean, that is the concept we should really think about it. And migration comes with the culture here. I'm just chatting with Dr. Ina, I believe. I was very impressed with the statement of Shukriya. So Shukriya means a thank you. And I studied in Italy, so we had grazie mille, or, so these kind of, when we exchange the migrant and, how the culture are exchanged from one part of the other part of the world. That's the things I believe that's changing the whole landscape of global cities. And the other last point which I really want to say, I have been interacting with many global leaders from across the world, and I have a special observation about it. There is a need of a women empowerment, and I believe that whatever my interaction with the global leaders and professionals and our colleagues, I believe that there are still need to do a lot in the domain of a women empowerment. The time is very, this is the high time when we should start thinking about this aspect. And Professor Nada, when I met her last time, it was such a great to see her great energy and her warm hospitality. And that time also the ambassador, my ambassador, she's also a woman. And I believe that, there is a greater requirement of a woman empowerment. And I'm very impressed with the session where we have a very equal gender balance. So these are some of my thought. I'll stop myself over here. For the presentation, I'm going to be present in my next session, which will happen just after this. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Hvala lepa. Thank you, Professor. And now, dragi prijatelji, drage prijateljice, we are about to begin with our design talk. The design talk on the topic, how can we in the field of creative industries use humanity-centered design to make a better world? Yes, this is a big question, to make a better world. Let's see what our hosts will say and done. And the hosts of the first design talk are Professor Nada Rozmanes-Maticic and senior lecturer Tjaša Čakš, who are here, and I welcome you here on the stage. And I will say you like this, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Blanca.
Izvolite.
Dear colleagues, welcome to today's roundtable design talk, where we will explore how human-centered design can contribute to a better world in the context of creative industries, ranging from architecture and urban planning to visual arts and sustainable technologies. And our goal is to shape the human experience in the way that respects our shared environment, cultural heritage, and social values. Each of our esteemed speakers comes from different fields and cultural background, which will enrich the discussion with diverse perspectives. But before we begin to talk with my distinguished colleagues, I would like to represent Magister Engineer of Architecture, Ms. Tjasa Čakš. She is a lecturer on Faculty of Design, a very prospective young architect. That's what we want, to bring some new values, some new ideas, some new pedagogical methods. She established now her own company. She has many projects in Maribor, and she is teaching our master and Erasmus students in the field of urban planning and urban space design. Concrete, it is a new European Bauhaus studio, and also the author of this year theme, Tiny Houses, Coexistence with Nature. So this is the global problem we are facing with, not only in our region, our town, our environment, but all over Europe, globally. And as we heard today, all my colleagues around the world are working on the same goals, on the same projects, and it is really very important that, as we know, that we have, we designers have a special, how should I say, poslanstvo. Yes, mission, sorry. And a special mission. We have to do all the best from the bottom of our heart and with the whole knowledge we have in our mind. So, a very short presentation of this project, which is already going on our master department for interior designers. Tjasa, thank you. The stage is yours.
So hello also from my side. I'm Tjasa, as Nada mentioned. For the third year in a row, I'm part of subject European Bauhaus. Okay, thank you, Domen. Where students design their project with sustainable principles. This year, students will design sustainable village of tiny houses with urban equipment at Ljubljana Marsh. So, Ljubljana Marsh is located south of Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia, and it is the largest marsh in Slovenia. The major part of it has been protected as landscape park. Students know that, and they're also aware of strict building rules here. So I hope they will take also this into account and maybe find a degraded place where they will place their settlement in. Initially, they were given a task to analyze the area from a historical and cultural, natural perspective. The Ljubljana Marsh is known for its rich archaeological heritage, especially from remains of pile-dwelling settlements from prehistoric times. One key question also that arises here is for the students, how will modern marsh people live? So according, if we connect back to perspectives of history, this is also the first initial sketch of how the settlement might look like. I helped them with that, and they need to develop the idea a little bit more. I also gave them the key questions that they need to ask themselves. So the first one was, who is the investor? They had to create a profile of their clients, because we have a lot of some students that specialize in visual communications. They created profiles of their users, and here are some recent examples of their work. As you can see, I think that they are asking the right questions for further investigating and designing space. So we have elderly, a single person And then a profile of a couple that is struggling to have a child, a single mother with a child, and a family with 2 children. The next question was also what kind of spaces will people live in the future, considering that the world is dealing with new weather challenges, climate change, and larger footprints of humanity in nature. I think that students at the end will come up with 2 potential scenarios. The first one is on the example of Skronship, a sustainable village in Amsterdam. And the other maybe is a little bit more futuristic one, on example of linear futuristic city, The Line in Saudi Arabia. So there it is up to them to decide in which way they want to go. If I'm honest, I'm a little scared of futurism, and will be really interesting if they go in that way. So the next question was also what are the alternative forms of life that encourage coexistence in harmony with nature? With personal income decreasing, many people can often no longer afford a home of their own, which is likely to lead to more room sharing and rental options for housing. We will have to adapt our lifestyles to find new ways of living that align with both economical realities and the need of environmental harmony. The final relevant question, which opens up possibilities for futurism, is how will people live in 20 to 50 years? If we strive to be environmental conscious and to take into account that all natural resources are limited, we must also, as space designers, realize that the spaces we are designing are limited. In recent years, we encounter various changes from climatic to social, and tiny house as a case study is an excellent example of optimal usage of space that can be adapted to different usage scenarios. In photograph, we see one of many tiny house examples. That's a mountain bivouac created by Slovenian architect Miha Kaiser. The examples demonstrate that a tiny house is not only an optimal living solution, but also a representation of various forms of shelter for people. The capsule as an architectural element enables the creation of flexible and modular units that can adapt to various lifestyles and function. If you are more interested in this topic, Professor Peter Schenk, Slovenian architect, wrote a lot about on this topic, and I also suggest students to read this book. But if we go in real life, there are some examples of capsule tower that include Nakagin capsule tower created in the 70s that was sadly demolished in year 2022. And on the left, as we all probably know, a modular kiosk created by Slovenian architect Saša Metrich. We also are facing new technologies arising, like 3D printed houses. But I see a potential also in creating public spaces in interventions like installations, like we see on this picture, that can actually create spaces that are also, that have artistic and functional value. I also showed them some examples of interior design references, but not just the greenery. I was really impressed by innovative usage of materials in furniture design and so on. So on the first example, we see a piece of furniture created by Leonard Piano and Pia Pekol, Predmet from Hempcrete. And on the left, we see traditional wood-crafted furniture design created by Studio Moste, both from Slovenia. So I forgot to mention here that maybe sustainable ways of designing are also representing traditional forms of art. they were also introduced to Stone Cycling. That's a company that creates recycled building materials. Although brick is a sustainable material, they create innovative materials and from industrial waste and construction debit. So it's also interesting from this aspect that can be used from interior design, not only for building constructions, but I believe that actually applying materials and these sustainable methods are easier in interior design as in architecture, because in architecture there's more strict building rules that we need to focus on than in interior design. Then also recycled plastic is very popular in designing public spaces and other various methods of recycled materials, like on the left, the recycled Tetra Pak wall. We also, I guess, know all this example. I showed them this one because I think that it is very innovative in creating new materials, because this chair has, I think 60% of it represents this recycled, I forgot, plastic bottles and recycled polypterene, and 40% of non-woven textile. A very similar example is also a Dutch company called Plank that creates these sustainable surfaces from textile waste, especially recycled veneer. Also, I ordered some samples because I am a little bit of hoarder myself, and I had the opportunity to touch it in person, and I was really, really impressed by it because it really looks like a real veneer. Then also, I want to mention creative recycling. On the right, we see a French company called Fabric that creates functional decorative materials out of fabric recycling material, and also all terrazzo manufacturing in some kind of way is sustainable, not only just with stone, but also with wood and other materials. Then we have some examples also of wall covering out of recycled paper and using marble pieces from production in new ways in furniture. Here are some solutions of acoustic solutions from wood, wool, and cotton. But not only recycling is recycled material and optimal usage of material is important, but also that we think about how we will organize this space so that it is functional and that can be adapted to different space scenarios, and of course also that we maybe use some traditional methods in our design of furniture. And for the last, okay, it opens. For the last slide and reference that I want to show you today is when designing furniture, we also need, in tiny spaces, we need to think about optimal usage of the furniture and that can be adapted to different users. These last three examples were from architects of younger generation, and we can see that we are trying our best to put also these creative principles in actual design. So this is it from my side. I would like you also to invite to the exhibition of students' work from last year named Studio that is exhibited in the hallway. Thank you for your time.
Tjasa, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I'm so happy. We have so many solutions for new materials and new ideas. So please take a seat. I'm very honored to invite my dear colleagues, architect Andrej Mercina. Warm welcome. Jani Demšar from Geodetic Institute Ljubljana, and of course also from our Faculty of Design. Warm welcome. Professor Giuseppe Marinelli. Ah, he is coming, okay. And Professor Dr. Dragan Čalović, Dean of Faculty of Design from Belgrade. Warm welcome. I'm really very happy, and this discussion will be today really very short because we have so many different approaches. I also see now online our colleagues from New Delhi, from school, from lovely school from India. Warm welcome. Do we hear us? Yes, thank you very much. And I would like to begin with my colleague, an architect, Mr. Andrej Mercina. Your architectural opus is incredibly rich, encompassing private homes, office interiors, hotels, establishments, shops, urban planning projects, even a prison and a mosque. It's an unbelievable combination, but I read this in your CV, very interesting. Kindergarten and many international projects worldwide. As the founder of architectural firm Tria, with offices in Ljubljana, Munich, and Dubai, you operate in 3 different markets and cultural contexts. And my first question is, given your extensive experience both in Slovenia and abroad, how do you understand the social responsibility of architects in space design? Yes, please.
I guess this one is mine. Thank you. I'm truly glad to be part of this event. My answers might not be that precise as you would want them to be, but I think our profession is not able to give precise answers at this moment. That question brings me back some 25 years when I was listening to a lecture by Patrick Schumacher. So Patrick Schumacher is the head, the principal of Zaha Hadid Architects. And he's an advocate. He might be called the Trump of architecture scene. He's advocating everything that is against social responsibility in architecture. I was so furious at that lecture. I raised my hand and I said, come on, that's the essence of architecture, so we should really focus on it. But 20 or 20 more years passed since then, so my answer might not be that brave or that sharp. Because I believe our profession is struggling to accept that we are not at the center of gravity anymore. We lost our powers, we lost our credibility. I think the main... So my answers will be for the debate's sake. Please, it's not the truth, it's the debate's sake, okay? Thank you for doing this, because that's the purpose of it. But it's true, we are on the periphery, we're on the perimeter, we're not in the center anymore. Because 20th century was all about space and architecture and improving life conditions and the quality of life. And the big movements were happening there. But today, the big leaps, the big changes are happening in whatever you call it, computer-based intelligence, or you know, the big discoveries are made in neuroscience, but not in architecture. If I look in reality, and I often read the explanations why certain awards are given to the architects, and I think, come on, this award should be given to the developer, not the architect. Because the fundamental decisions about our projects are done by developers, or however you call them, the clients, whatever, not by us. We are, and yes, I will dare. but I apologize up front. We are merely entertainers today. We are doing the makeup, we're doing the nice packaging, not anything else. And you could say that entertainment is act of social responsibility. I would agree, but that's not what you meant, I guess. So we have this very limited space, and I believe, yes, it's worth fighting for it. But social responsibility is very, very hard to sell. Also, sustainability is very hard to sell. I mean, that's reality. We've been talking about this for decades, and nothing's really happening, to be honest. So I'm not pessimistic at all, as you will see at the end. But I will give one example. It maybe it's oversimplified, but decades ago, I was following a Norwegian car manufacturer. The young guys collected, and they made a fantastic car, a concept that used recycled material that was very light, tiny, of course, fully electrical. And I was so enthusiastic about it. And then I take Tesla. And I look at that concept, which for me has got nothing to do with sustainability, to be honest. And I think they uncovered the real nature when they launched the Cybertruck, you know, the latest model, the stupid X-large, huge, it's like a small bus. And the movie they shot for that car was like, the car is driving in the pristine nature over the beautiful rivers, and it's full speed. It's like, so it's destroying everything. And that's their clip. That's their advertising. I mean, come on. But who is successful? Tesla is one of the most successful companies in the world, and those guys are bankrupt for years. So it's really, really hard to sell that. But I'm optimistic. I'm crazy about optimism. It's all about optimism. So there is bright light, maybe. I read a news, and this is my last part. Something like 14 days ago, the Royal Academy Architecture Award for this year was given to Chris Ballister Parrots. And I was like, who the hell is that? And I think like 99.99% of people that read that article was like, who's that? And that's people who know something about architecture. Because she's not an architect. So she's an economist that worked and created a huge team of professionals, and they created social housing. They were conceiving and building social housing for many years in Balearic Islands. And I saw those photos, and I was like amazed. It's so beautiful. And then I realized that it was done by different architects. So the award for architecture was not given to an architect. So the point of it is that the real shift and the focus should be in the backstage, not in the design. We should not be talking about design. We should be talking about how things are done and how we can penetrate to the market or society. And then the design is just a consequence. So that's what they were awarded for. Because they had one more thing, they had consistency. We often see projects that are so beautiful, but it's just one thing. We were part of so many European backup projects, just one project, and then it's done. It's forgotten. And that's nothing. There's no real impact. So they did it, and they have a fantastic oeuvre of I don't know how many projects. And I think that's the future.
Thank you, Andrei. But so little space, if everybody has such a space.
Yes.
We have a whole global planet at the disposal.
It's worth, definitely.
Does it work? Okay, thank you so much. I only wanted to say if we have such a little space at the disposal, but if everybody has this little space, we are going to have the whole planet. Andrei, is it possible? Of course it is. Or it isn't.
Of course it is.
I will
That's why
ask
we're here.
Yanni Demscher, our next honorable speaker, Mr. Demscher, as an expert in spatial planning that focuses on the design of adaptable living and urban spaces for the elderly population and individuals with limited mobility, like myself at this moment. You address social interactions, assure accessibility, and contribute to fostering a sense of community among various social groups. The question is?
So in Slovenia we are facing aging population. Oh, sorry, still need to get used to it. So in Slovenia we are facing aging population and issues of accessibility. Universal design is becoming increasingly important in light of social equality. I am interested in how we as society can improve universal design and ensure greater accessibility of public spaces, considering that this goes beyond merely the normative and regulatory frameworks we operate within.
Thank you for the word and also to invite me. Yes, my field of work is working with different disability people, or may I say, vulnerable groups. Yes, we saw on the last presentation that the focus must be on us, on people, especially on urban planning, not on cars. So, and the vulnerable groups are most important in this case, especially when we talk about the universal design. Universal design is make accessible places, but not only places as a physical point, but also the information, also the services. Because if we just thinking about the accessibility, about the physical place, we talk about the wheelchair users, but we have more different disabilities, actually. So, and how can we, in this case, help? My opinion is with participation. Participation is a method which we should use when we start planning, when we start talking about something which we plan or design or make, or because if the thing will done, we can't prepare to different people or for different use. So,
thanks God, we have so many furniture, a new innovation on our faculty,
yes.
And especially our professor, Dr. Jasna Hrovetin. She is a great specialist in this special planning, special projects, and of course innovation approaches. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much,
this case,
Jenny.
maybe just one thing more. In this case, is very important also, yes, the street furniture. Because street furniture make places or streets layout accessible.
Yeah, for better life.
For better life,
for everybody.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you so much. Warm welcome, Professor Dr. Dragan Čalović. You are a full professor and Dean of Faculty of Contemporary Art in Belgrade. You are the specialist in the field of art and design, especially theory of new media, special theories, Japanese art. I'm only looking, of course. Engaging daily with various fields of art. As an expert in this area, you recognize that art has a profound impact on society, as it reflects cultural values, promotes critical thinking, and this is very important thing nowadays, because for every project we have to discuss and research about art and design values, and of course research another parameters when we are have some special goal in front of us, in front of every project. So how do you prepare your students in this way of thinking, design thinking? Of course, we are going to hear something more about design thinking a little bit later. Please, Professor.
Thank you, Nada. Our understanding of art changes over time. So relying on postmodern theories, most likely we will not consider art as some separate field of human activity, completely independent, but connected to culture, to social practice, to science, technology, etc. And it doesn't mean that we should develop some agenda for artists. Of course, we learn from history why we shouldn't do that. But we can learn how to appreciate art, and art can provoke discussion. Art can bring some new visions. We can learn how to communicate. We can learn how to develop communities and to develop our sense of community. But what is also very important, we can use art to reinvent and rethink our understanding of development. For example, when you talk to other people, vast majority of them will tell you that they don't have enough time, they are always in some rush. But if we don't have enough time, that means that we lost our lives somewhere in a process, because life is actually time we spend on this earth. So that's why I think that we can use art to redevelop and rethink our development and to change our world, not to consume and to produce more and more, but to be happier.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We need time, you said.
Yes.
Yeah, we should have another design apartment to research that. Thank you so much.
So if we continue, Mr. Marinelli is rewarded architect and artist who operates in and exhibits at an international level. Through your work and teachings, you recreate unique sensory experiences in urban environment, distinguished by your ability to connect art and architecture. This scenery not only enriches public spaces, but also positively influences the quality of life within communities. Given your extensive experience in integrating various artistic disciplines, how do you perceive the role of spatial interventions in shaping sensory experience in urban environments?
Okay. Hello. It's okay. First of all, let me say thank you, Nada, to invite me to be here, because I have to say that I love Ljubljana, the city that I feel, especially feel in my body, in my sound. First of all, I have to say that I will start with the aphorism. They say, when the engine change, the travel change. And across the turn of the last century, the paradigm of the society has changed, passing by the complicated society to the complex society. Something complex is something with the effect is the fruit of several causes, each other structural causes. The big example in front of us every day in the media and the newspaper, the immigration, no? The cause for the immigration is several. Everyone is dramatic, it's truly important. And you can't solve one without damaging another. That's very It's complex. And in this meaning, for example, it's enough to read the numbers of demography to understand what would be the future. We can talk as well, but in the midst of this century, Europe will have less 30, 40 million inhabitants less. Africa will have 500 million inhabitants more. This say you something? This suggests something? Okay, but coming to us, I think I will ask to join myself for 1 second to the speech before. That I think the first responsibility for a project, someone project, men or women, say, is to have the care to have the correct reading of the reality. Because the reality is not a garden or kindergarten. The reality is something complex and very hard, especially now, which we have 2 wars. At 1 hour of fly from here, we have several wars, and this is not is able to change the scenario. For example, the Ukraine wars, the Ukraine response to the Russia invasion, and get a different look about energy immediately. Donc, the things that we had not a dream about this. The reality is complex. Then the first, I say for the students, for the teacher, for my colleague too, the first responsibility is to have a correct reading of the reality. After, to say, for example, no, we are taking, if you change the engine, change the destination, change the travel, because if you go by horse, you are a destination in front of you, the travel in front of you, no? If you go by fly, it's another. If you go by spaceship, you have another more, no? And we live in an era in which the economy is substituted by the finance. There's a great, I think that Mr. Andre, that's a professional that I know yesterday night, evening, is a very, very nice person, a smart person, as architect professional, I think he can answer very quickly this, you know. And the model to be a business is very different, because one thing is to product value, the production of value. Another thing is the extraction of value. If we build a house, you know, for example, I think all of you are the students in design, architecture, interior. You know what? A complex, difficult to do a project. You have to, for example, we see just now, the small conference about, small lecture about how many subjects involves a project, you know? To me, no?
Perfect.
Okay.
But we have to go to India now. We have to go to India.
I came to.
Yes.
You want to know? I know when I was
professors on our line.
I was in India. I did several in one of the conferences. I met Rajendra Kumar.
Thank you so much.
I know. I don't know if you remember. Sometimes it's... No, like, concluding, I suggest, for example, in this change of structure, the perspective, I think very interesting now to get a look to this, because there are some urban spaces that are dying and some that are burning. For example, to look a look about that I call the intermediate spaces. We have the limits, not all everybody, of course, but generally the limit to see the space exclusively under the functional side, but we have to feel the nature of the site, how to change the nature of the site. With the nature, it becomes more and more complex because of also the presence of multimedia system. I teach this. At the master in the university in Udine, I teach multimedia system, the evolution of the site. No?
Thank you so much, Professor. I have on a line Professor Rajendra Kumar
that's all.
in India. In India. Let's go to India.
That's
The most beautiful country in the world.
Professor Lada, can you hear
Who
me?
is the first? Professor Tara Singla.
Yeah, she will be speaking now.
The proper name. She is an architect and researcher. Domen, do we have? No.
I think she just...
Do we have Professor Rajendra Kumar? Okay, Professor. Professor Kumar, do we have him?
I think now Professor Tara is going to have the next presentation.
A very nice greetings to India, all three professors. I would like to mention and thank you very much that you are willing to join us on this design talk today in Center Rock. And thank you again, Professor Rajendra Kumar, because you came to us on our faculty on our first event during World Habitat Days. I would only like to mention that Professor is an expert with extensive knowledge in the field of architecture and urban design. You focus on addressing the challenges of urbanism in India. I'm really very much interested because I have been there and I admire all your problems in India. How can human-centered design in India contribute to addressing specific challenges such as urbanism, preservation of cultural heritage, and access to basic living conditions? Please, a very short answers if possible. Thank you so much, Professor. What's going on? Domen, do we have anybody? No?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Should I repeat the question, Professor?
Can you hear me?
Professor, how can human-centered design in India contribute to your way of life? Please, a very short answer. So we don't have them. I think we return to Center Rock and...
Hello?
I don't know.
We have some technical problems. I suggest that we continue with Mr. Mahalingam. Do you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we gave you a question. So, Mr. Kumar, how can human-centered design in India contribute to addressing specific challenges such as urbanization, preservation of cultural heritage, to assess basic living conditions? That was the question.
Yeah, well, Professor Nada, actually you are sitting in the hall, so the voice is echoing a lot. I mean, I'm able to hear you only a bit because I think that your technical team should have taken into consideration because you are speaking from hall. So the voice is echoing a lot. It's a very difficult to hear. If you can type the question, I would love to answer it because I could only hear the tourism and India word. I mean, I'm not able to hear properly.
Excuse me, professors, but we have some technical problems. So the suggestion of this round table and the public here is that we make a short break, having a coffee, and answer the question how to make this world and life happier. And then we shall hear each other. But now I'm inviting you all to have a coffee. You as well in India.
Yes.
So Thank you for now, and we're here in some minutes. And of course, thank you to all Nada's guests.
Hi, sir. I have to say something. You come to
I couldn't work more because I was calculating. We are always working together.
Szpegle vzam.
I don't know from which school, but last year we had 2 students from Italy. Yes, and they were from Udine, and Simone, and they were wonderful.
About
A veš, a si ti dobila tekst za napovedati?
Ne, jaz sem samo to
Ste dobila? Jaz sem prav poslala Nadi tekst za Blaženko. Aha, glej, pa da jo mi dve to naredi.
En stav, kaj potem pravzaprav, da se dogaja?
V bistvu tako, jaz imam inauguralno razstavo, ne?
I shall invite you all, da kar pišem, kaj ne naredim, to assist.
To assist.
Naredila, ne, ker zdaj ne vem, what
Tukaj je inauguralno zapiše.
No, the inaugural
Exhibition.
of associated professor
Dr. Martina Kač-Nemanič. Pa kaj rečeš, da ne kar začne, ne?
Martina, tako, Nemanič, we shall hear a presentation, and please, Martina, we are curious to hear.
Thank you, Blažka. Blažka, thank you, Blažka. Ja, nekaj sem zvučna, veš.
Mi reče, thank you, in začneš časa
10 telih slajdov, we've been colleagues, guests, students and friends. It is my great pleasure, jaz mislim, da 10 minut. Lej, tokle imam, ne? Pa takole, a veš, malo več.
Ti to mi razpel, mi bomo to videli, in potem konc, se pa jaz vsem zahvalim.
Pa je to. Potem pa sam povabiš, hvala za predstavitev, pa lahko si ogledate te dela, si pa lahko ogledate, zdaj pa vas povabim k ogledu v živo, in pa verjetno kakšen sneg bo verjetno, ali bo potem.
Povabilo na ogled. Potem se pa nadaljujejo dejavnosti, ki ste že predstavili. Super, veš, kako hvala, meni so poslali noč, ne? Takole jaz dobi pa moram samo
Ne,
pisati.
smo prav ne menili Nadi, ker je Nada rekla.
Dobro, mogoče Nada pisati. Ali pa pač ne nič hudka. Mamo, ko se zdi. Mamo,
Mislim, prej ima dobro delati, ampak te dare sem že videl.
Niso razumeli, da bo imel prezentacijo, ker je rekel, da bo imel pri drugem delu pogodbe, da bo imel prezentacijo. To mislim, da je tudi problem, ne?
Ampak on sploh ni odzivil se noben, samo rekel, da je karkoli rekel, ima dva nista nič. A veš, kaj se tiče povezave, ne? Ne vem, sta slišala, ali nista slišala.
Prosti, še nisem se zdaj
Ne, to je konc, to je pa konc. Mislim, ker je z vami to konc.
Dobro, tudi da smo vsaj
Edino, kar ne vem, Martina je nekaj se svetovno menila, da bi jaz pa kar šel s telefonom live, pa bi stao...
Ne, vse potem je pa sam še, Jan, veš kaj, potem mogoče, če bi tako...
Ne slišim, da je v mikrofon govor.
A ja. Ja, čakaj, sam da slišim, kako se sploh to sliši. Sam da jaz sebe Jaz bom pa začela. Dear Dean, colleagues, guests, students and friends, welcome. It's my great pleasure as a graphic designer, professor and head of the Department of Visual Communications at the Faculty of Design in Ljubljana to exhibit my works here today at this international design event. The exhibition offers a glimpse into my creative journey over the past 5 days, highlighting design pieces that have a special resonance with culture, particularly music. Veš kako, Jan?
Čakaj sekundico.
Jan, ti kar, vse sem pa tukaj malo. To reflect the world around me, interpreting and reshaping it, while continually seeking, as Professor Dušan Komnenić once observed, the best way to dress others. Allow me to introduce a few of the works featured in this exhibition. This poster emphasized the importance of connection, both globally and personally. Through the use of typographic expression, it speaks to the necessity of coming together and encourage us to strive for positive societal change. This piece explores humanity's innate connection to nature and other living beings, art, history, critique, is forming as poetic statement aimed at trusting in a better society. Ob 7, da bi pa jaz. Mislim, zdi čisto cool. Če je, veš, in mi ima lepo tukaj le...
Ampak kdo vam nato tata?
Ne. Mislim, tukaj je.
Ja, povejmo, no.
Da me slučajno ne bi...
Sam povejmo, ker ne vem, kako imam tukaj povedno še.
Tudi.
Thank
explicar, pač. Vsi so slišali, vse smo jih slišali skozi. Vse so govorili. Ja, ona pa pač ni bilo.
Jo, no. Ni jo bilo.
Ja.
Imamo jezne indice, jaz ne moram nadaljevati, ker imam Muni zdaj. In grem na FD. Professor Mada, so I had one project, that I have young design center, world design organization. Young design network. Yes. Young design organization. Yeah. And I have one project about design all. Design for all. All. So we will do like a recommendation for all designers. Ah, thank you very much. Yes. Can I join you? Yes. May I join you? Of course, always. So now we will need some videos from you, your staff and students about what is design. Oh, yeah. But I will send you an email and I will explain everything. Okay, send me and we're going to prepare. I can begin in my kitchen. Because everything you do is design. Yeah, big stuff pattern, isn't it? Thank you very much for everything. For everything, like your support or motivation. Of course. If you need, I wanted to say, if you need something for your habilitation or whatever, a kind of meaning or recommendations or whatever. Thank you very much. Yeah, because I know how what horrible struggle is to become all this point for further rehabilitations. Yeah, it's a hard job. I understand now. I know. Yeah, because everybody, you have to be on design talks, on conferences, you have to write, and I will also try to force my colleagues to prepare something for your journal.
I saw some the student presentation, so they can apply.
Yes, of course, with projects.
Yeah.
Or for diploma works or something. Something like that. Yeah. We now it should be now a little bit over these days, over in October. And then we rest a little bit and then we are working again very hard.
Okay, then we will be in touch. Thank you.
Excellent. Ja, to je tista.
delavnico naročimo 3 pakete, po 5 kg, 45 delovnih dni.
Če vidiš, absolutno naroč.
Zdaj, ki je imela ono, kar sem se spomnila.
Noben problem za pakete. Ker veš kaj, tisti pa perfekten, to je posušena, moje, to je tisti zmor.
To so te neke mahovi, kar so neki posebni.
Jaz sem to videla, ker sem bila na enem dopustu na enem otoku, enkrat je bil en gančnov hotel, se sem se tudi poslikala, cele stene so imeli stene kot njega.
Zdaj nam to pomeni za delavnice.
Naroč Tami, šta te rabiš? Kdaj greš na dopust?
Jutri sem še drug teden.
Ja, drug. Kruzem, si te reče nimaš šola, imaš šola.
Nimam šole, smo naštivane.
Pa ne malci sporoča. Se ne rabiš.
Vse sem še mogla, že pisala.
Ne, za jutri.
Ja, ne rabiš. Prav.
Napačno mi sprašuješ. No, primer tega.
Nimate, ni.
Skoraj bi šlo
Moje, ker smo že tako smo tukaj. 5, 6, 12.
Dai, esami dai birthday.
Che se distingue.
Tehnične težave. Ne tehnične težave.
Jaz sem napisal pač,
We can restart.
I just wanted to double check as well. She's not here.
She's not here.
No, she's not. She's not well. So we have the four ladies. I do apologise. She is on her way. She's not here immediately. She is on her way.
Okay, then obviously she's on her way. When she comes, she'll participate.
And then if she comes in, I'm that's no problem.
Okay, thank you. I think that today is a day of emotions.
We can cope. We can cope.
Thank you. And Anna Maria is here, so. Dear friends, dragi prijatelji, kolegice, kolegi, I hope that you had your coffee, although there was no coffee. So thank you for being with us again, and we should restart with another design talk. And it is very important for me to announce that the host of the design talk will be our friend, firstly, and very important person every year here with Faculty of Design, Line Elvins, who is coming from Bristol, UK. Hello, Line. So the host of our next design talk, be welcome, always with us, and I shall announce the participants. So we are happy to have here Assistant Professor Arbresha Ibrahimi, International Balkan University, North Macedonia. Hello, dobrodošli. Then I am calling, and I'm glad to be so, Professor Maria Miloševska-Janakijevska, International Balkan University, North Macedonia. And also with us, Assistant Vjosa Saracini, North Macedonia, the same faculty. And with us again, z nami znova Ana Maria Čudan. She is from Faculty of Design. You know her probably, master student Slovenia. So the ladies are here gathered, and I shall also say that Line is also representative of Tiny House Company UK, if I'm not wrong.
No, that's correct.
That's correct.
That's
So
correct.
that's correct, Line. The floor is yours, and we are really looking forward, and we are curious what the ladies will say.
Thank you very much. And I was very glad to hear this morning that was mentioned about empowering women. So I'm delighted that we have a fully empowered panel of women. Thank you. Yes, I'm Lynn. Thank you again, Nada, for inviting me once again to come back to Ljubljana. I think I also agree with your sentiments this morning. I love to be here. Ljubljana is a very lovely place that I get to return. So yeah, I appreciate that very much. Always lovely to see the team of Faculty of Design. So yes, I'm here. I have two hats. I'm here this week. I've been with some of you, mostly as first years, talking about design thinking. And for me, again, design thinking, as we've said in the sessions that we've had, it's a process. Also in my practice, that which has come up already today, design is becoming bigger. It is becoming at the system level, and we're moving through that. So we're going to touch a little bit on that today. And we have the topics of sustainability and design, which are huge. So I've asked the panel that we focus down a little bit and use this theme of tiny homes, which has already been introduced, because the tiny homes concept allows us to think about this question of how our lives potentially need to be changed by design. And for me, this is where, again, I mostly, in my work with companies, and one of the companies I worked with this year, hence being a representative of the Tiny House company, was a company in the UK that builds and sells tiny homes. So I'm going to contribute a little bit to the conversation from that perspective. But I also just want to we're going to touch on those layers really when everyone is talking. So obviously a tiny home itself is like the object. For those of you who are product designers or architects, we often deal with a product. But the people who engage with that product, that object, are very important to how that object needs to be considered. And then, of course, those people don't also live alone. They live in communities. So the communities have to be understood. And of course, the biggest system of all, which has been mentioned today, and the system that always wins, is nature. So we must always design with nature at all these layers. So before we, or actually, if you're happy to dive into the conversation, ladies, yes? Marie, can I start with you? Because if we start with that sense of a tiny home as an object, you have fantastic sort of specialist knowledge about sustainable materials. Some of amazing materials were shown, but I know you have knowledge in some of them. So talk to us a little bit more about those material decisions and the materials that you're working with.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you to Professor Nada for the invitation. So, very interesting topic, and for this Urban October, I want to congratulate also to the students for their hard work. Yes, my expertise is about, among other things, about sustainable materials, and I can talk a lot on this topic. Unfortunately, we don't have that time, so I will be short. But I have a lecture later today from 6 o'clock, so the students can come and listen, so I will speak more about, on the same topic, about sustainable materials. So, sustainable materials, as Lynn mentioned, several were presented today, shortly. I recently published a book about engineered wood products, which are also part of the sustainable materials. And I think that they can be perfectly implemented in the tiny house designs. For example, cross-laminated timber, it is a structural material with good structural properties, which are, actually it has properties that are overcoming the disadvantage of the natural timber. So it's perfect as a structural material. It has a better load-bearing properties than the actual timber, the natural timber. And all the engineered wood products are actually sustainable materials. They are contributing to the circular economy. Some of them are even produced from the waste, from other processes. So basically, by using them, they all have different application. Cross-laminated timber, as I mentioned, is used as a structural material, but also other engineered wood products can be used as a furniture design, as cladding materials. All can be implemented in the concept of tiny houses. When we talk about materials, actually, it's important to speak about the embodied carbon versus the operational carbon. So, because the embodied carbon is released during the process of construction and during the process of sourcing the materials. So that is why it is very important to use sustainable materials so we can decrease the embodied carbon, because afterwards it's not possible for that carbon to be decreased. So using of locally sourced materials is also very important. It was also mentioned previously. Because if we use materials that are not locally sourced, that means that we are wasting a lot of energy for transportation so that we can bring the product from other countries to the construction site. So it's very important to use locally sourced materials, then climate responsive materials. So there's a lot to to be spoken about sustainable materials, it's not just that simple, we will use bamboo, for example, because I've heard that it is a sustainable material. But if we cannot find it locally, if we have to bring it from somewhere across the world, then that's not a sustainable material. So we have to think about many aspects when we are speaking about materials.
And do you find that these aspects, again, are becoming clearer to designers when they're making their choices, or designers are still, because it can be quite confusing.
Exactly.
And some materials, like the recycled plastics, they sort of look like eco materials, whereas an engineered timber doesn't necessarily look like that. It looks like timber. And do you find that this is still a problem in terms of educating people?
I think it is, and I think there is still low awareness of the material and what is actually a sustainable material. I think we need to increase the education process and to speak more about it, even in front of our students. For example, at my faculty, before I came to the faculty, nobody used timber in the structures in the projects. Now that I came, I started to speak more about engineered wood products, and I have a lot of students that are implementing in their projects. So speaking about it, it makes them more aware and motivate them to use it more.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn. It was a pleasure.
No problem. And Arabashi, did you want to make a comment on the materials, or are you happy if I...
Yes, of course, you can
Okay,
continue.
so I know like your work, again, then starts to go into the cultural side of buildings. So again, once we've maybe, built something, but how that interacts with buildings, and how your work with bringing those cultures in and considering those cultures. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How do you go about that? How should the design students maybe start doing those things?
So mostly of the time we say that architecture without people is not architecture at all. So in that context, the community, it plays a huge role. But from the other side, the community itself, it's a very complex poem. And if you're on the other side, we need to know that if we started from ourselves, the identity is very important. And like it or not, in some way, we wanted to reflect that identity. But when we are talking to a community, it becomes even more complicated. But the beauty it is that the community have a lot of diversity. They have a diversity, not only physical diversity, but also emotional diversity, interest diversity. So this is now a huge responsibilities for architects, but also a huge opportunity for us at the same time. So during my research, which is mostly focused on museum architecture in context of redemption, this process of redemption is very useful for any kind of design, even for tiny house. So as a people, as a community, we belong to nature. And the connection between us and nature, we can make it through architecture. So this potential, it is the first step that we need to respect what we have, and what we are, and who we are, and how we belong, how we came to this point. But after this step, the second one, most important, is to see the opportunity. How we can regenerate stuff. So with a tiny house and community, we can do a lot because we have as an integration point the nature. So focusing on that, connecting not just visually, but hearing, touching, and stuff like that, it is very important. So as Professor Maria says, that the texture, that material itself gives us that sense of belonging. And when we feel in any space, even in the city, even in this today that we have that sense that we belong in this city or in this institution, it makes us a little bit more human, like you can say it.
And again, in terms of the role of designers then changing, being this these people who invite, we have to learn from other people, and from different cultures. Again, do you feel like this is something that designers and architects are embracing, or does this need new people on the teams to do this bit? Do we integrate it into our practice?
Yes. So now I will talk as a member of Young Design Circle in World Design Organization, which we are facing with one project like, what is really design? And we thought that design is very simply, but after that, when we share our own ideas about the conception of the design, it belongs to our background and belongs to our knowledge. So this link between community, knowledge, and sharing stuff maybe can change the way of perception of the design.
Yeah.
But without communication, without sharing, without respecting each other in any different ways, we cannot achieve anything.
Yeah, very good. And again, staying with that point a little bit more, do you, when you've worked on your projects, at the beginning, do you feel things like setting the principles of respect and listening, do they need to be kind of written down? Everyone needs to be invited into that type of space?
I'm a little bit strict in this context.
Okay, great.
So I'm always, even when I'm working with the students, the first thing that I'm saying is to do the analysis part. So it's 70% analysis, 30% is the design itself.
Yeah.
So during this 70%, it's for us very important to discuss, to have all the information about the context, about the community, about the needs of the people, about the evolution of the materials, of the structures, of our ideas, and what can we improve.
Yeah.
So that communication, it's from the beginning.
Okay.
And as much as we integrate stuff, it is more easily for us to build something that we can call it sustainability in the true meaning.
Yes.
Not just sustainability in context of a material, it's one thing, but also sustainability in identity, in emotion, in belonging. That is another way of sustainability.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. And again, I think exactly like you're saying, I think too often it's just thought of as the materials at the end.
Yeah.
When, like you say, it's the context of how it's used. It's everything. That it's the way, again, the way that people want to live with objects or digital services or any type of design. That's great. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
And again, I think that your point that you're making is also similar when working with the students this week on design thinking, which again, that design thinking process encourages designers to stay with the problems longer before we start trying to generate solutions. And I think all of these issues mean we have to spend even a longer time
when
with
we understand
the problem.
Yeah, understanding the problem is the main point.
Yeah.
And being familiar with that, then we can see the opportunities. Finding just a solution cannot be even responsible, but also neither sustainable.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Anna Maria, I'm going to move across to you because your thesis when you're here at the Faculty of Design was on co-working spaces, so slightly different to tiny homes. But if we did have communities of people living in tiny homes, they would still be going to workspaces and that would still be part of their life. But when you were engaging your community of students around co-working and tell us a little bit about that and what you found most insightful from your work.
I now am an ex-student council president, so I talked a lot with students, so that was very valuable for me, especially in the era of COVID, let's say. And I could see the shift of values. That was a big thing with the students, because once the COVID hit and we all had to stay at home, nothing material really mattered anymore. So we had to turn around and look at our friends and see how, like, in what communities we are engaging and what is the knowledge that we are receiving and what we want to spread to the world, what is our kind of essence, and also we became more inner focused, let's say. And I think this is also the perception that is changing, especially in the Gen Z, now also with the living problematics, etc. So tiny homes became, I think, a logical consequence because people started improving themselves, started self-growth, mental health became a big topic, etc. And I think that living in a tiny home, in a smaller home, is way tougher than living in a big home, you know? Because you have to rethink each square meter in which you're living, and you have to really see the purpose of each square meter that you're using. And I talked to my friend who is same age as me, and he's living in a tiny house, in a tiny home, and he said, you know, you would think that it's much more complicated to live in such a small space, but actually, you know, you can quickly adapt to different habits. It's way simpler to keep the space clean. You know exactly what you need, and also the small space kind of encourages you to spend more time outside, you know, and be more connected to the nature. And here is where we kind of come back to how we as people have this need to be connected to nature again. And I'm also happy because you talked a bit about the materials, about those topics. I think that the trend kind of flipped since maybe in the architectural projects years ago, you wanted to use bamboo, for example, because it didn't look something that comes from your environment, from a local environment, but you wanted something special, something new, you know, and implementing those kind of materials was fancy. But now it flipped to versus being fancy, having wood from basically your forest, you know, and this is something that became much more valuable, and I'm super happy that this shift happened. Yeah.
No, that's great. And again, I think your example is a really lovely story of exactly how the product, the tiny home, impacts then how people then live. So although as designers we need to take into account how people want to live, but by creating the objects or the homes, we then change them. Exactly. So there is always constantly this relationship between objects and people and nature. And
it's also maybe kind of experiment, you know, living in a smaller space always gives you new challenges of how you will do different things because your habits maybe had to change in a smaller space. And it's always an experiment, and you can basically design your own space in a different way because it's more challenging.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And if we then go all the way up to our relationships with nature, how do you, again, do you feel, Vjosa, that we are understanding and properly incorporating our relationships with nature, or are we only just beginning to maybe change the way we do that?
I think, as my co-speaker also mentioned, that it's very important that we are realizing how connected and how back to nature people are really striving to be, because we have become accustomed to living indoors, staying indoors, and post-COVID, this idea of how luxurious the outside world is to humanity in general really set deep within every person, that outside has become this area that not everyone can be at all times. So I think that now with the idea of tiny spaces or tiny homes and smaller spaces, we're also being forced to think of how we can also coexist in a way with the nature around us, because we are being forced to think not only about our inhabitation inside, but also where we would want to be outside. So in a way, it's awakening people in a different kind of aspect, because we're now thinking outside of the box, so to speak, or outside of our homes. And in that regards, it is also becoming a bigger issue and a bigger conversation as to how these natural landscape and spaces are to be occupied, and in which way we will leave a mark on them, or rather in which way we will use them, but also not maybe damage them furthermore. And I also would like to point out just a quote from the previous director of the UN Population Division, which mentioned that managing urban areas has become one of the most important development challenges of the 21st century. And I think that this is very impactful to this day, and it's going to continue to be something that we will look into and something that we will have to manage, and we will definitely have to be thinking in many different ways as to how we can have this living together between people inside houses and outside with nature.
Fantastic. And I know we were speaking a little bit yesterday evening, and obviously there's a role then in terms of urban spaces with planners. So, I mean, do they come into the design space, or are they separate, do you think? Do you see them being involved with architects and talking about the wider side? And obviously all of you, I can see nodding, so please feel free to comment about, again, that relationship beyond the community to the people who design the cities.
I think it should be very closely related. The communication, as Brisha mentioned, it's very important to have communication between, even in this aspect, between urban planners and architects, because those two are basically shaping cities and shaping countries. And that is the connection that we can have between people and cities. So it's not just one person designing in terms of all. It should be an open conversation that everyone should be involved, from the larger aspect to the smaller aspect. So even if it's not just urban planners and architects, but citizens as well. Yeah. It's social, also cultural, and also the designer approaches that need to be taken into consideration as to how a city can be more sustainable, more a bigger quality in terms of living and spaces to have in the future.
Great, thank you. Was there any, I think...
Yeah, maybe just a thought is that above all, there is a concept of being flexible, you know, flexibility, because for our generation, this is a big topic. As we travel a lot, as we tend to work remotely, you know, to be as flexible as possible, this way of living is also teaching us how to be flexible and how to maybe have a park as a alternative living room, basically. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
It's something related to inclusion and regeneration. So inclusion of all aspects that we have, but also regeneration of the space, like multifunctional in the same time. That will be another topic that we have to discuss according to this tiny house.
Yes, many complexities. Yes, it's like all the layers are moving, I think. And this is tricky as also for new, I think, students coming in. Design used to be more, you know, you could do product design or you could do graphic design, or, you know, but now all of this flexibility, all of this understanding about sustainability is in all of it. And if I could maybe just quickly go back to all of you, and if I bring in a little bit from the tiny home company that I've worked with, I know that one of the areas of resistance, because they're a commercial company, is the competitors. The competitors that have less sustainable tiny homes don't want them. They don't want to lose the business. So they will push back, and they will make out that their tiny homes are better than this company who actually has embedded more sustainability knows. So, and also coming back to planning, certainly in the UK, land laws with tiny homes are very complicated, and they stop a lot of tiny home development for people even who want to do them. Do any of you feel that there are areas of resistance that you see? And I suppose if I come back to the materials, we talked a little bit, it can be quite complicated to get people to change, but do you feel that you do see one type of resistance sometimes, or a way that people resist, you know, new engineered timbers or...
Exactly, yeah. People are, with new materials and new technologies, are a little bit skeptic always, because it's not tested yet. It's not like it's an experimental stage. We need to see how it will behave, which is true, actually. We have new materials, but we cannot know how they will behave. We can make tests in laboratories, we can make hundreds of things to test them, but we don't know how they will react in real life. And after a few years, for example. But the old materials, they were tested for a long time, and some old technologies and strategies that were used actually were developed by mistakes. So they knew that something is not working, and then they changed, and and actually we are now going back to some old strategies using straw bale, which was used in the past, which was shown that it is a good thing.
Okay, so we then have that. That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's normal to be skeptic about something new because it's not tested. It's something that we perceive it as not proven to be good.
Yeah.
It needs to be implemented. It needs to take years so we can see whether it is good or not.
Yeah.
So people more are trusting some practices that were used in the past and they were shown that they are a good choice compared to something which is completely new and innovative.
Yeah, yeah. So again, we maybe need the courage for people to
but it's human, actually. It's human perception, and we all think like that.
Yeah.
You know, when we have a proof that something is good, we trust that. If it's something new, we need to wait for the proof.
Yes, yes. And I think, again, it's a very good point. And I know the tiny house company that I talked to, they found that as well. People are a little bit like, well, show me the one that's been there for 20 years.
Exactly.
And then I'll buy them.
Yes.
But it's like, but we need some people to buy them now so that we can show that they will be perfectly fine. And it's difficult to overcome this.
It's difficult, yes, to convince the people, especially regular people. I mean, users.
Yeah.
You have to be in their shoes to understand what they feel, so that you can try to convince them that they can trust you.
Yeah, fantastic, thank you. And again, I mean, culturally, do you see areas of resistance to the sort of more open, taking more time, inviting different cultural perspectives in?
So in that context, need to be a disciplinary project, like showing the people that we have those tiny house. You can experience it for 1 day, 2 days, coming back, going again for 1 week, so on. So it is more in how we can manage, combine all of interdisciplinary aspects that can promote those tiny houses. But directly moving there, I think that it's not possible.
Okay.
Slowly we get to know a little bit more familiar to be with those tiny houses. For example, I'm a claustrophobic. And if you tell me, do you move there and for free, I am for sure that I will not do it.
Okay.
But if you tell me that you can enjoy for 1 hour, maybe yes.
Okay. So slowly, again, a bit like design experiments.
Yes,
little,
slowly.
small testing, move forward, but always move forward.
Yes.
Always try.
Not to stop.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. And again, Anna-Maria, resistance that you see?
Yeah, as a business developer, now this is my kind of career path. So this topic kind of really is close to me, and I have to convince people all the time, you know, for different things, for innovations, to try them, etc. But it's funny because there was another flip, I would say, from companies kind of hiding, you know, the things that they maybe didn't do so good as they could, or maybe something wasn't optimal, etc., to the transparent side. Okay, we didn't do it perfectly this time here, but it's functional, it works like that, but we will tell it and communicate it transparently. So this is also a point where people kind of build this trust on being super transparent with everything. So that's very valuable for me.
And again, I think that point also speaks to another point made today about ego. We have to leave the ego if we're going to say, sometimes it didn't work, we'll do it differently, there's more room. So yeah, that's also part of that change.
Yeah, exactly. We have just to accept that, of course, everything can be improved. There is just a scale, you know, of moving too perfectly, but nobody is there yet.
Yes,
right?
yes. And yes, again, always
it's about the process. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Perfection sometimes is a problem for designers. It stops us. We like it to be perfect. And again, so resistance, do you see resistance?
Well, as you mentioned, in urban planning, it becomes a problem as to how those would be qualified, because we think in, I guess, grander scale, so smaller scales are something that are not as openly approached as they should be. But I think if, in those concepts, as we also had a conversation yesterday, it would be beneficial if it was thought of maybe starting from a community and then moving towards smaller, tinier houses. Maybe if we see a tiny house concept in a community-based area, maybe even the city or the grander scale will be able to approach it and accept it differently, because then we're talking about a general community of people and not just one person living in one small space. But at the same time, I would say that it just needs one person to say yes to the idea and the project, whether it be from an urban scale, architectural scale, design, materials. It just needs one yes, and then everything else will move forwards. Because there are examples, as also Tiasha showed an example of the capsule living in Japan. That was something that was a concept that was used for many years. So it's not that it hasn't been tested. It just needs for the rest of the world, in a way, to accept it and be like, okay, let's give it a try, and then see how it goes on. And yes, as Ana Maria said, it's okay if it fails, and it's okay that we learn from that failure, and we will be better at the end of it as a future result.
Very good. Thank you very much. I'm going to stand up just the last bit as I finish up, because I'm going to pose a question to everybody. So you've already sort of slightly answered this question, Abrisha. But the question that I'm going to just ask the others, including myself, is again, would you live in a tiny home? Now that's different to, do I like the idea of a tiny home? But you say, if I actually said to all of you, you now change and you have to go live in a tiny home, I'll come back in a moment, but we'll do a show of hands if that's okay. Your point about being claustrophobic is a good one. I know that I like the idea, and I did look into the idea of tiny homes. My partner just said to me, I'm not living in a tiny home with you. You're too untidy. We would need a tiny home each. So, which then slightly changes the concept. If everyone just has their own individual one, we're maybe back to houses and apartments and things like this. But yeah, so I think you've maybe said maybe, but questions?
I question this. I give it the answer about this question, but I can add just one thing. It is human ego. Okay. What is for us luxury? Yeah, it's a tiny home, or big houses, or the nature. Yeah. If we see that nature is luxury for us, it's easy to adapt. But if we have another context, that it will be very hard.
So again, changing perspectives.
Yes.
Very good. Maria, would you live in a tiny home?
So I have to mention now the three of us are accommodated in a very tiny hotel room, like very tiny. Yes. Not just in square meters, but in volume, because it's in an attic space. So it's according to none of the standards. Okay. But we are doing just fine.
But great.
This is for 3 days. I would love to say yes, but I think that I should change a lot of things.
Yeah.
First of all, my habits. For example, I have a lot of clothes, so I have to get rid of them because there is no storage.
Yep.
So that means changing my style, maybe even changing the way I'm clothing, because I should think more smart and sustainable.
Yeah.
And combine the same clothes maybe in different styles. So it takes a lot of thinking and effort.
Yeah.
Changing the habits. But there are also advantages, as Ana Maria said, the maintenance, the cleaning would be faster, which is for me very, very good advantage.
Yeah.
So,
and as you say, a very good point about how this then raises questions about the fashion industry and how we buy fashion. And suddenly we're not talking about interiors and architecture.
It arises a lot of questions, actually. Yeah. It's not just living in a tiny house. It's completely changing habits, lifestyle, things like that. So,
very good. Vjosa, would you?
Honestly, I would love to.
Okay.
I'm very open to the idea, and I hope from a personal perspective, I would love to experience it. Even if it's a test project, I would love to apply and see how it goes, because I enjoy that type of lifestyle and that type of spaces.
Excellent. So Vjosa is ready. If anyone has an experimental tiny home community, we have someone
whoever
who
has
signed
that,
up.
sign me up.
Ana Maria, you obviously have friends who lives in a tiny home.
Yeah.
From that understanding, would you do the same?
I would definitely, yeah. So my friends, they're a couple, and they just had a baby, and now they moved to a bit bigger home.
Yes, tiny home with a baby.
Yeah, but it's definitely I'll be open to experiment with the square meters and how much of material things I really need to have a comfortable living.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
can build 2 tiny houses.
Yes. Yes. Or again, with 2 tiny houses, the baby in one. We do. Great. So just to finish up, thank you very much for listening. But I will do just the one question. Who would live in a tiny home?
But what qualifies for tiny?
Well, there you are. This is, this is a very designer answer. Depend. Exactly. So, like say, it's not necessarily for everyone, but I think we have a good amount of hands. But
I would.
Nada would. Well, there we go. Excellent. Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time listening. Thank you very much to the panel. That's great. Thank you.
Hvala lepa. Thank you so very much. That was lovely, like Lynn would say. Thank you, fantastic and lovely. Lovely ladies, thank you. And we shall continue now with our last thing for this first part of the day. I shall invite you all to assist the inaugural exhibition of Associated Professor Dr. Martina Kac-Nemanic. I'm saying hello and I'm welcoming her on our stage. Thank you for the applause. So the exhibition is outside and now the presentation is here and we will hear Martina and then we will invite everybody to see the exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you, Blaszka. Dear Dean, colleagues, guests, students and friends, welcome. It's my great pleasure as a graphic designer, professor and head of Department of Visual Communication at the Faculty of Design in Ljubljana to exhibit works here today at this International Design Week event. This exhibition offers a glimpse into my creative journey over the past 5 years, highlighting design pieces that have a special resonance with culture, particularly music. Both graphic design and music are unique forms, artistic expression, and yet they share a powerful commonality. They awaken the human spirit. I aim to reflect the world around me, interpreting and reshaping it, while continually seeking, as Professor Dušanka Komnenić once observed, the best way to address others. Allow me to introduce a few of the works featured in this exhibition. The first one, Cooperation. These posters emphasize the importance of connection, both globally and individually. Through the use of typographic expression, it speaks to the necessity of coming together and encourage us all to strive for positive change. The next one is entitled Biophilia. This piece explores humanity's innate connection to nature and other living beings. Art history critic Eva Kolber is calling these posters as poetic statement aimed at trusting in a better society. This poster conveys the valuable message that we all have the power to contribute to a better, more beautiful planet. Each action, no matter how, can inspire greater change. And in this work, I harness the emotional immediacy of design to convey a profound message. And Professor Wanda Jurković observed that the topics are intelligently interpreted and behind each one lies a thought-out idea that invites reflection. Standing here today, I feel a deep sense of connection to my colleagues and students at the Faculty of Design. I must say that your kindness and your support have really deep it really touched me a lot. I must extend my gratitude also to everyone who has accompanied me on this creative journey. And together we explore not only design, but the ways in which art can shape society and inspire a better future. Thank you very much.
To, kar bi mogla na začetku povedati, bom pa zdaj povedala. Zelo sem počaščena in vesela, da lahko naša kolegica, izredna profesorica, dr. Martina Kač-Nemanič, opravlja še zadnji dogodek, to je inauguracijska razstava za pridobitev redne profesorice na področju vizualnih komunikacij in oblikovanja, pa bi samo 2 stavka povedala. Martina Kač-Nemanič je grafična oblikovalka, pedagoginja in predstojnica katedre za vizualne komunikacije na Fakulteti za dizajn v Ljubljani. Njeno ustvarjalno oblikovalsko delo se navezuje na različna umetniška področja, namreč ne samo vizualne komunikacije, pač pa tudi arhitektura in slikarstvo. Habilitirana je na področju vizualne kulture in komunikacije, ima znanstveni in tudi umetniški doktorat. Sodelovala je pri številnih domačih in mednarodnih projektih, ter za svoja dela prejela številne domače in tuje nagrade ter priznanja. Prizadeva si tudi za sodelovanje z drugimi fakultetami in tako poučuje tudi na Univerzi v Mariboru na smerih tehnologije tekstilnega oblikovanja in inženirskega oblikovanja izdelkov. Posebno pozornost posveča ugledu in promociji Fakultete za dizajn in njeni mednarodni povezanosti in pojavnosti tako v Evropi kot svetu, predvsem za svojimi razstavami, kjer razstavlja na tujih umetniških dogodkih. Med kolegi in študenti na Fakulteti za dizajn se počuti odlično. Velik pomen zanjo predstavlja medsebojna povezanost, empatičnost, osebna rast, predvsem pa strast do umetniškega ustvarjanja. Tako da jaz sem zelo vesela, da smo skoraj na koncu pred nazivom redne profesorice in bi si želela čim več tovrstnih dogodkov. Tako da res čestitam za tale zadnji dogodek. Tole rožico ti poklanjamo. Izvoli, Martina.
Dragi moji, hvala lepa vsem skupaj. Iskreno, zelo vas imam rada.
No, to so bile zelo lepe besede, izrečene tako dekanjine, kot seveda Martinine. Zelo vas imam rada, to radi slišimo, velikokrat bi bilo zelo lepo, da bi slišali. Jaz pa mislim, da smo končali prvi del današnjega dogajanja, ki se bo nadaljevalo okoli 2, ko bomo sodelovali pri drugih dejavnostih. Vidim, da je gospa dekanja nasmejana, zato se lahko nasmejimo tudi mi, zlasti kolegice in kolegi. Najlepša hvala vsem, želimo vam uspešne dejavnosti in happier world, kot smo danes slišali. Radi vas imamo, hvala lepa.
Thank you. Ne,